The Chaos God, known as She Who Thirsts, has many favorite playthings, both mortal and neverborn, and everything in between. Many who see themselves as opposed to chaos and are beacons of imperial light, too, are secret pets of She Who Thirsts. One such favorite toy is the Masque of Slaanesh, or just the Mask. Though, how could a one-time ordinary demonette, the most common demonic minion of Slaanesh, rise so high to become a favorite of the God of Pleasure? Well, it's because this demonette would become the greatest dancer in Slaanesh's court. Being both male and female, a hermaphrodite, the entity can call on all aspects of sex to enhance its performance, essentially being the perfect demonette to the god. The mask was so favored, it was given the honor of combing the hair of Slaanesh and oiling the Chaos God's flawless body, which drove other demons insane with jealousy. There was none among the god's demonic legions that were ever closer to it or allowed to grace its presence on all occasions. But where the mask shone the most was when its master inevitably fell from manic highs into depressive lows, and the pleasure god's grim mood emanating in its realm like a tide of darkness rippling forever in the immaterium. Very few things were ever able to cheer up Slaanesh other than the mask. And that is, until its fall from grace. For despite the entity's perfection and unrivaled beauty, the god of pleasure would curse it for all eternity. It would become the most despised of all Slaanesh's demons. Now, in the realm of chaos, it's well known that there is an eternal war between the four powers in the warp. The Great Game, as they call it, where slowly but inexorably they all battle one another, losing territory, gaining territory, going back and forth beyond time and space, with eventually the winner, if there ever is one, being able to consume all of the other realms of chaos and the essence of all the other chaos gods. And the Provocation Wars were a massive conflict between the four powers that took place within the warp, and was a pivotal point in the Great Game for Slaanesh. As the war was at a peaking point, and at the most tactically critical time for Slaanesh, the god was tricked by Tzeentch into making some pretty bad moves. And in the end, the pleasure god suffered a humiliating defeat against Nurgle and Khorne forces over a series of hard-fought campaigns, with Slaanesh's arch-nemesis Khorne taunting and embarrassing it in the aftermath, being more than enough to tip the god over the edge. And in the warp, Slaanesh's realm dwindled in size because of the defeats. So, to say the Chaos God was furious would be an understatement. The mask made the mistake of thinking that it could cheer up its master through dancing as it always had done before, though this was an unfortunate miscalculation. The Prince of Pleasure could never be categorized as stable, but after the humiliating defeats, Slaanesh was more unpredictable than ever. She Who Thirsts embodies pride, passion, and so much more, but with its dignity so pierced by horrific defeat in the Great Game, when it looked upon the mask, it didn't see the mask dancing in its glory. It only saw the mask as a mockery to its pride. So the Prince of Pleasure called the mask a traitor and unleashed all its boiling frustration upon its one-time favorite toy. Slaanesh declared that if the mask wanted to dance so badly, then it would dance forever unending in both the material realm and the immaterium. There would be no rest for the Masque of Slaanesh ever, inside and outside of all realities. Thus, the mask was cursed to dance eternally throughout space and time. It loves to dance at the gates to Khorne's realm within the warp, taunting bloodletters who rage at the display. However, the mask dances at the gates to all the Chaos God's kingdoms and loves to mock all the enemies of Slaanesh equally through graceful skill and dance. But the mask's antagonism is always most focused on the arch-nemesis, Khorne. But even other demonettes are subject to the alluring hypnotization caused by the dancer, and she has often enjoyed driving them into a trance, though the eternal dancer finds just as much pleasure dancing for mortals as well. Because many unknowing imperial planetary governors have unwittingly invited the dancer into their lives only to perish in a carnival of sensation from the mask's performance. She tends to leave a mess. though the mask's perfection is mostly appreciated upon the battlefield. This is the mask's doom, her curse, to dance across eternity throughout the mortal and immortal realms. Her razor-sharp talons split a gaping hole in reality, where she then dances until her victims are so enraptured they can no longer move or speak, leaving their bloody end the peak of the demon's performance. The entity's gift of sensation reduces all but the most hardened minds into slobbering wretches who have no choice but to indulge in her exquisite, sensual, visually stimulating excess. The mask's dances reenact the glories of Slaanesh and the god of pleasure's dark destiny and unholy gifts of sensation yet to come. The demon's horrific mask ever changing from one face to another based on the character it's playing. Mortals and other demons alike become so entranced by the mask, they too join in on the dance. Somehow, they enact the dance as if they'd trained for it their entire existence, their performance one of a master through countless hours of experience, yet far from the perfection of the mask. Depending on just what dance the demon is enacting, it can cause one to tear out their own eyes, rip their own flesh from their bones, or lull them into a sluggish, monotonous performance, with other dances rendering the victim insane from the overdose of sensation, happy and eager to try and mimic the demon's assumed will, even to their own demise. If a mortal is within the mask's aura of influence, they are delighted to dance themselves to death. So in war, the mask is an incredibly formidable opponent to have to face. A notable battle that it participated in is the Battle of Biel-Tan. The Eldar are obviously one of the most preferred victims for the mask to entrance, and along with the blood god champion Skarbrand, who is a fellow exile that fell from grace in the Creator's eyes, allied with one another and saw that the Eldar were vulnerable and that it was a good time to strike. So they manifested within the Eldar craft world through a portal on the demon world of Ursulia. Once an Exodite world, Chaos Demons of Slaanesh and Khorne had massacred the planet's Eldar population and was now just using it as a portal to the hated craft world of Biel-Tan. Skarbrand and the mask's conquest went well, and the demon even invaded the craft world's infinity circuit. The mask was even about to devour the Eldar souls for Slaanesh. But then, all of a sudden, the mysterious forces of the Ynnari showed up to save the day. The Incarni, the avatar of Ynid, the Eldar god of the dead, banished the demons back to the warp mere moments before the Masque of Slaanesh's complete and utter victory. And it found the sensation of exquisite torment for its failure pleasurable beyond reason. Though this is just one example of a plethora concerning manifestation of the mask in real space across the records of, I guess, all the factions. But this demon can also be identified as having behavior incredibly similar to that of the Harlequins, an Eldar faction that is also known to obsess about dancing and performance. In fact, the Harlequins consider battle itself a performance in the arts. This isn't unusual, though, because the Eldar birthed She Who Thirsts. The entire realm and essence of the demonic god is a mocking and twisted mirror of the Eldari hubris. It was their hedonistic depravity that is the essence of Slaanesh. So enrapturing Eldar to dance themselves to death is one of the mask's greatest pleasures, especially the Harlequin faction. The demon has even managed to infiltrate a Harlequin troop before, because the mask can appear however it wishes, and so often finds its way into places that its demonic appearance would never normally allow it to go, at least without creating mass horror. But it entranced the troop with sadistic glee, though it didn't go in for the kill, because it wanted to enjoy the suffering of the Eldar as long as possible. The appearance of Solitaire is all that quelled her power and saved the lives of the Harlequins and the audience that was viewing their performance. Only Solitaire can impersonate Slaanesh and is immune to the influence of the mask, with Solitaire matching the Eternal Dancer's moves for 6 days straight until it finally made a mistake. But the mask does not make mistakes, and so the failure completely horrified the demon, especially because it was in front of a prey race, an Eldar. So the mask fled, but has always had and still remains having an eternal hatred against the Harlequins, constantly seeking revenge for the humiliation especially against the vile solitaire.
Find pleasure in every moment, indulge in every whim. Let lesser races feel the burden of their crude lives. We are beyond such concerns or worries. Every power is ours to use, every sensation ours to experience. We are truly masters of the galaxy, and all others exist only to satisfy our curiosities. We have earned our position of power. Let us forever taste the fruits of such achievement. Time itself is ours to command. We are eternal.